Welcome to Executive Leaders Radio, your spot in the corner office, the radio show where executives share their secrets to success. Executive Leaders Radio.
You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen, with my co-hosts, Shannon Lane, Newmark Knight Frank, Drew Hanlon, and Pat Riley, USI. And we have a great lineup of guests for you on our show today. Drew, will you please give us the rundown?
Sure, do. Got a great show today. Kathy Brunner's lead off with President, CEO of Acumen Analytics. Linda Conlin, the president at the World Trade Center of Greater Philadelphia. Rich Capasso, the president at Clairmont, Paciello and Company. And finally, John Cooper, who is the co-founder and CEO of Life.io.
Let's get to know our first guest, Kathy Brunner, president and CEO of Acumen Analytics. Kathy, what is Acumen Analytics? What are you guys doing?
We're a consulting firm that helps people take their data and solve problems and answer their most pressing questions.
Interesting. Where are you from originally? How many brothers and sisters? Where are you in the pecking order?
I'm the oldest of four. I have two sisters and a brother, and we grew up in Doylestown.
All righty. And we were getting to know you earlier in the green room, and you impressed me as being a very bright lady. How young were you when this intellect began to show up? How young were you when the intellect began to show itself up?
I think early in grade school, probably second grade, where I had completed all of the reading that had been necessary for the entire school year. So I was given a reading program in the closet to just read the next grade's books.
Mm-hmm. Drew?
Kathy, you kind of blend together intellect and a competitive spirit. It sounded like you were reading ahead of everybody, winning math competitions. Where did that come from?
I think that my dad was very competitive, and very young, we started playing chess together. I lost a lot when I was little playing chess, but I became good enough to eventually beat him.
What was it about chess? What was it about chess that you really loved?
The strategy, the forward thinking, the execution of the strategy, the fact that you need to be always thinking 2 and 3 moves ahead.
And how did that help you with your clients today?
Well, it's everything that we do, right? We take data and try and predict and figure out what's going to happen next so that you're either prepared for or you can avoid it.
And the final question is, when you're faced with kind of a tough situation at the office, what do you hear your dad whispering in your ear?
So we just keep working at it. We've got to figure it out, understand what the root cause is, and then, work to get to the answer so that we can get around it or move past it.
Pat?
And Kathy, just to get back to your mom and dad a bit, can you tell us a little bit about them, what they did for a living?
My dad was a salesperson and often the top ranking salesperson. My mom was at home until we were I was in 8th grade. Then she worked as mostly a secretary for the better part of her life.
And which one of them do you think that you're more alike?
I think I'm a lot like my dad.
Okay. And what qualities do you think that you bring forward that your dad taught you?
Well, we're both very competitive. I think we both work very hard. My dad was a coach while I played sports, softball for a big part of my grade school life. And I think I do a lot of the same.
And what is that coaching? How does that come through today in your business?
So I think it's important to me to make sure that everyone on my team has all of what they need and that they can deliver what it is that they need to. I was a coach for my son when he was younger, the only female coach, actually. So I think it's important to make sure that people have what they need to get the job done.
Mm-hmm. And also that competitive spirit. Her father was the top ranking person on the team. It's like, ooh, she's got that competitive spirit coming from dad. Shannon?
Kathy, in the green room, you mentioned that you were involved in a math competition in 8th grade. Can you tell us more about that?
So in 8th grade, I was part of a team, and the math that I had to do was called set theory, which I had not yet learned. So I had to figure it out with a book. And when I got to the competition, I didn't come in first. But I knew that in the next year, there was another one that I would be going back for. So as I said, I didn't win or come in first. But what I did learn was that I needed to be a little bit more prepared and and figure out what it was that I didn't know then. Kind of let me learn how to take tests exceptionally well, though.
And Kathy, that idea of looking forward to next year and learning to prepare better, next time. How does that show up in what you're doing today at Acumen Analytics?
Well, as I said, that's exactly what we spend our time doing. We take data and transform it in a manner that helps people think ahead and figure out either what they need to avoid, what they need to plan for, or what they can execute on.
Mm-hmm. Drew, what else are you thinking?
I just want to go back to the softball field. I mean, sometimes having a dad that sets the bar high and is hyper competitive can be a challenge. What were your thoughts at a young age of having your dad on the sidelines?
Some days they were good days, other days not so good. I played the pitcher position and was also catcher, but I was also on cleanup for whatever position didn't come to the field that day. So I kind of had to play all the roles. I think that translates today. I do a lot of roles in our company. But yeah, it was a great day some days and other days not so great.
And when you look back on those days now, and think, hey, like dad set the bar high, what do you think of that today?
I think it's great. I mean, I set the bar high every day for myself, and I try and do that for the rest of my team, but I do understand that everyone's bar is different. And it's important to figure out and meet people where they can be most successful.
You mentioned you also coached your son. You were the only female coach to coach your son. Why did you do that?
So I'll add this. My co-coach was an African-American man. So we were the two outlier coaches, and we were given the team that had the worst players. So they just needed a coach. So I kind of raised my hand, but.
What did you bring to the role? Like, what did your dad teach you that you brought to the field every day?
I played soccer, and I was a goalie. And so we just wanted everyone to be taught well and learn their positions, but get to play as well.
Does that translate over to what you do every day at your business?
I think so. It's important for me to make sure that everyone on my team and all of my customers have what they need to do in order to get their job done.
Mm-hmm. You married or single?
Married.
You have any kids?
I have 3 boys.
Uh-huh. And what's the similarity between being it says here you're the president and CEO of Acumen Analytics and being a mom? What's the comparison there?
I think I have the same role in my house. We are a team. I've got 3 boys, like I said. It's my job to make sure that they become successful members of society.
How do you define success?
I think they need to be happy. I think they need to be well educated, and they need to be good people.
Wait a minute. Wait. You're running a business. I thought you were going to tell me money, but you're telling me they have to be happy. And what are you talking about? Well,
I run my business because I like to provide to people the ability to get things done. And I myself like to get things done, but it's not all about money. Competition, it comes in different forms, and winning doesn't necessarily always mean the dollars. It just means doing the right thing and getting the job done.
So you believe that you're trying to figure out who people are and then play to their strengths as opposed to impose, your own. Give me that again. I'm not sure I understand correctly.
So winning doesn't necessarily translate to dollars. In my mind, being successful is getting done what is necessary to get done and making sure that the people who need you to help them get things done get from you what they need. Right.
Wow.
So education. Yeah.
So you're a competitive supporter, huh?
I think so. Yes. I have often been described as the person who jumps up first when someone else has been wronged. I think in 5th grade, I told one of the kids on the bus that I was going to beat them up if they were picking on my brother the next day.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. I think I would call myself a competitive defender.
Perfect. And how's that translate to the business?
I think I do a lot of that as well, both for my team and my customers. What's
the website address of this organization known as Acumen Analytics?
It's acumenanalytics.com.
How do you spell that? Why don't you spell that out for us?
ACUMEN-ANALYTICS.com.
We've been speaking with Kathy Brunner, President and CEO of Acumen Analytics here on Executive Leaders Radio. That's Kathy Brunner, President and CEO of Acumen Analytics. Don't forget to visit our website. It's executiveleadersradio.com to learn more about our executive leaders. It's executiveleadersradio.com to learn more about our executive leaders. We'll be back in a moment right after this quick break. Don't go away.
Recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, Executive Leaders Radio. Yes, you can recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Simply visit executiveleadersradio.com, securely enter their info, and we'll reach out to spotlight your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, Executive Leaders Radio. Don't wait. This radio and online social media and search engine exposure is quite valuable. Yes, this radio and online social media and search engine exposure is quite valuable to your business advisors who deserve to be recognized. Visit executiveleadersradio.com now to nominate your deserving business advisors for free exposure.
You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen. We'd like to introduce Linda Conlin, who's the president of the World Trade Center of Greater Philadelphia. Linda, what is the World Trade Center of Greater Philadelphia? What are you folks doing?
Well, for over 2 decades, we've been helping small businesses to grow in markets around the world, and we've been pretty successful in doing that. We've helped them generate about $2 billion in increased export sales.
Wow. Where are you from originally? How many brothers and sisters? Where are you in the pecking order?
From Springfield, Massachusetts. It was a family, two sisters, and I'm the younger of the two.
Younger 2 sisters. All right. Drew, give me a hand, please.
Yeah, Linda, in the green room, you mentioned your mom was like a really special woman to you. Can you tell us a little about her?
Well, she's now 104 years of age, but she was a working mother. She was in business with my father for 20, 25 years. So she'd work at the office during the day, come home at night, take care of us, do the yard work. She was a jack of all trades.
What did that mean to you, seeing your mom work so hard?
Well, it certainly gave me an appreciation for a family that had a very strong work ethic, both my mom and my dad. And it showed me that you could be a businesswoman as well as be very effective at home, too.
And when you're faced with a tough choice at the office today, what do you hear your mom kind of whispering in your ear?
I hear both my mom and my dad. And I think above all, it's the importance of people and supporting people in doing their very, very best, and having a certain understanding and compassion as well.
Mm-hmm. Pat?
Linda, what did you do for fun growing up between 8 and 14?
I love to read.
Okay.
That always gave me a great deal of pleasure. Like to go outside, but largely reading.
And what type of activities did you participate? Any kind of organizations or sports?
No, I focused on academics. Coming from a Polish American family, education was very important. So my focus was always on schoolwork and doing the very best that I could academically. Okay.
And in the green room, you mentioned that you were a member of the Girl Scouts, and one of the things that you loved doing was the cookie sales. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Well,
I was very competitive. I was really annoyed when one of my friends, also a Girl Scout, started to sell her cookies before the appointed time. So I was bound and determined to do a great job and to do the very best at selling cookies in our neighborhood. And that was one of the another reoccurring theme that came up in the green room, that sense of fairness and a level playing field. Where did you get that integrity at a young age? Was that from someone growing up, or was that just something that you always had? Probably from my dad. He was someone that started working at the telephone company after the war, but he was a born entrepreneur and he was a small business person. And I watched how he ran his business and how it was very much people focused.
Wasn't there something that happened in a classroom that had a pretty profound effect on you?
Yes. My maiden name was Mishlive.
Yeah.
Name. And when roll was called in class and there was silence midway through the alphabet and through the roll, I raised my hand and I said, "It's Linda Mislui." "Oh, yes. Fine. Thank you. You can sit down now." And out of that, I said, well, gosh darn it. People come from different backgrounds, different names, speak different languages, have the respect to be able to pronounce names correctly. And from that point on, I became a language major, had a love of language and different peoples.
So this thing about the fact the teacher couldn't or didn't bother trying to pronounce your name correctly, did you get angry at her?
I didn't get angry. It was...
what did that do to you? How did that make you feel?
I was embarrassed. I was shy, and so not having...
And how's that affecting your view of the world and so on and so forth? What's going on there?
Well, if you fast forward some 15, 20 years, there I was, a junior in college in Paris, studying languages, and then after that, working at the State Department and welcoming delegations from around the world.
So your nature is you really like a level playing field. You don't want anybody discriminated against, do you?
No, I don't.
How's that playing out in terms of the World Trade Center? You work at the World Trade Center.
Well, I look at the World Trade Center, and it's my opportunity to help small businesses to be successful. And I think of my dad's small business. And it's also my opportunity to connect our companies here locally with people from around the world.
Didn't you also tell us you worked with your dad when you were a kid? The two of you got involved in your 20s when you teamed up. What was that all about?
We ran a travel business together.
Yeah, and how'd that make you feel?
Tremendous.
Why?
Because we were the dynamic duo. I mean, who can beat a father and daughter team? You walk into a company, you're trying to get that commercial business, and bingo, they see a father who proud of his daughter, a daughter's dedicated to
that whole thing about the team and this international, isn't that who you are?
That's who I am. I love leading teams, and I love bringing people together to do great things, especially bringing our companies together with people overseas so that they can not only do well, but do good in the world.
Shannon?
Linda, in the green room, you mentioned you were particularly close with your father's mother. Can you tell us more about that and more about her?
Well, she was a first generation here from Poland. They were the first family to own their own home. She didn't speak very much English. I had to speak Polish with her. But from them, I learned what a terrific country the United States is, and what an opportunity there was for them here. I often said to her, I asked her, "Oh, Babci, would you ever want to go back to Poland?" And even though she loved Poland, she would say, "Oh, no, never. This is a wonderful country, and we're really blessed to be here." And I carried that forward in the international work that I've done throughout my life.
And where do you see that show up today?
I think everyone should have an opportunity to work in public service. And I've had a career in Washington for many, many years. This opportunity to represent your country internationally, I feel really blessed, and I hope everyone has that opportunity to do that.
Mm-hmm. Your grandmother, you mentioned in the green room, you said you had the close relationship with her, but she didn't speak English. How could that be? So your nature was you were reading her. You just have a great deal of respect for people. It's not necessarily what they say; it's what they do. It's this international thing. What's that all about?
Well, even though she and I would speak haltingly with one another, nonetheless, it was very loving. relationship, and I enjoyed spending time with her because I knew what she had endured in coming here in steerage across the ocean and setting up her family and buying a new home, and how hard she worked and supporting her husband. So that was where there was enormous respect.
Yeah, boy, I really get that. I really get the fact that you're all about who the person is, not necessarily the car they drive. Am I correct about that?
Absolutely. I would see my father talk at ease with the valet at the Ritz-Carlton, and then I'd be introducing him to the Grand Duke of Luxembourg, and he was just as comfortable in talking with both, and enjoyed both.
So this international it feels to me that the reason international is so important to you is because it's everybody, and it's being able to treat everybody for who they are.
Well, when you look at a commercial relationship, it's not just selling a widget from Pennsylvania to Belgium. It's having a relationship of respect and trust. That's at the heart of every relationship, and even a commercial relationship. And I think that's what I've grown to respect over the years.
It sounds to me like you're actually acting as a role model, helping business folks understand and appreciate what it really takes to get a deal done. It's the relationship. What's the website address of this organization that you're running, the World Trade Center of Greater Philadelphia, that website?
WTCphila.org.
Let me have that one more time.
WTCphila, PHILA.org.
We've been speaking with Linda Conlin, president of the World Trade Center of Greater Philadelphia, here on Executive Leaders Radio. We'll be back in a moment after this quick break. Back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen, and we'd like to introduce Rich Capasso, president of Clairmont Paciello. Rich, what is Clairmont Paciello? What are you guys doing?
We're a CPA firm that deals with small, closely held businesses and individuals, and we also have CPC Financial Planning, which does financial planning and investments for clients.
All righty. Where you're from originally, and how many brothers and sisters, and where are you in the pecking order?
I'm from Trumbull, Connecticut originally. I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters, and I'm number 4 of 5.
All righty. Drew.
Rich, what was it like growing up? What did you guys do for fun?
Played outside a lot, Drew.
And when you went outside, was it like a community of friends that would get together?
Yeah, all the neighborhood kids would get together, and you would pair off basically kids around the same age group. So my older brothers would hang out with other people than myself and things of that nature.
And what did you learn during that experience that helps you every day at the office?
Just the whole sense of getting together, community, kind of working out, planning what we're going to be doing that day. Because we're all in the same boat. We're all outside the house. We weren't allowed in our houses. Our parents didn't want them in. We were out all day, so we all had to figure out what we were going to do all day. So we kind of planned out our day and then execute that once we went through that.
Where else you want to go? What else you thinking, Drew?
No, I mean, it's just interesting how that experience. Like, have you built that same community vibe at where you're the CEO now? Yeah,
I think that we have that very much. We are very family oriented. We don't have a lot of turnover because of the way I believe we treat people. It's kind of also the upbringing of treat people the way you want to be treated. And I think that's bode well. And I'm blessed to have partners who have the same philosophy too.
Rich, you told us in the green room that as a family, you would get together for dinner during the week. What was the conversations like at the dinner table?
Some of it was what my father did during the day and, what my mother was doing. And then they would just talk about, because they both came from big families, what their siblings were doing, things of that nature. And then they'd ask us what we did that day. But pretty much it was kind of my mother and father catching up and then talking about their families and catching us all up on that.
What was the main value that your dad wanted you to take away from those conversations?
Well, family was very important. I think that's the main value, is that family is important. And, we made sure you would never miss dinner, ever. Because no matter where you were, we were always going to be together at least once a day. So family is extremely important.
How did showing up at dinner like that every night impact you today and your leadership?
I guess being there for when you need to be there, and showing up when you need to show up, not finding an excuse not to be somewhere when you know it's important to other people.
Mm-hmm. Pat?
Rich, you mentioned in the green room that your parents are both from big families, each being one of 10, and that your grandfather was the center of it all. What did you mean by that?
Well, grandfather on my mother's side was, he was it. So every Sunday we would go down to the Bronx and have supper with him. And he was the focal point because it was important for him to have all his children around. And it was, again, very family oriented. He wanted his family to share a meal with him at least every so often. So it was very important that everyone gather around.
And do you remember what kind of qualities he exhibited during those meals?
He was basically the orchestra leader. That was his quality. And he'd go around and asking everybody, again, kind of like my own dinner table, what was going on in their lives. He knew a lot what was going on with his sons because they were in business with him together, but his daughters, he didn't necessarily know what was going on. So it was kind of a way of catching up because we didn't have Zoom or Skype or anything of that nature back then.
And how does that show up in your business today, that orchestra leader personality trait?
I want to make sure everybody's on the same page and, making sure that everyone knows that we're in this together. And if you need something, you can turn to the person next to you and they'll have your back. There's no judging as far as whether you have the knowledge or not the knowledge. It's just that ask the question. We're all here to help because we all have that one common goal.
Shannon?
Rich, I wanted to talk a little bit more about your mom. What was she like when you were growing up?
My mom was just a wonderful person. She wanted to make sure all of us were independent. So I know how to cook, clean, sew, iron, all that. So it was very important for her that every one of her kids were independent. But she was very nurturing, and she was sometimes one of the kids. So we'd go out and she'd shoot hoops, and she had a fun-loving attitude as well.
And what do you take from mom with you into work every day today?
Don't take things so serious. That's more importantly. It's just, you have to enjoy life.
And how does that help you growing your team?
Sometimes I'm very serious, and it allows me to step back and say, hey, listen, there's more to life than what we're addressing here. Just enjoy what you're doing, and then we'll get the job done. If you're happy in what you're doing, it's the best thing to do in doing your job.
Richard, how large or how small is the team?
We have 30 people.
Mm-hmm. So how's the turnover compared to other accounting firms?
It's very minimal.
Mm-hmm. Do you have clients that have stuck with you a long time?
Oh, yeah. I've had clients I've been there 37 years. I've had some clients have been there 37 years.
So you're telling me that the clients tend to stick with you. Is that because the staff tends to stick with you so the clients know they can depend on you and the team?
I think the clients stick with us and the staff stick with us because we kind of let them know what our goals and objectives are, and we tend to be client-centric.
Uh-huh. What was the primary thing in your background that enables you to glue the team together, or the team to get glued together, and that glues the clients into the whole process? What was that? Was that grandpa? Was that mom? Who was that major influence on you as a kid?
I guess it's both my parents. Is that, if you're working hard and you show a good example, and everyone else that have a like mind and goal, they'll work hard with you and you'll get things done.
Mm-hmm. Drew, what else were you thinking there?
Well, I remember in the green room that you said that the family name was something that you would protect and defend. What did you mean by that, and why did you do that?
Well, because coming from large families, family was extremely important to my parents, and they instilled that in us, that there's a family loyalty. Your name, your reputation, your character, that's very important. And that was emphasized a lot growing up. And so being protective is that, we can talk among ourselves as family about our little differences and things of that nature, but we are always protective. I can give you an example. My one sister, she can drive you nuts, but you know what? Anybody says anything about her, we have her back. That's the most important thing, is you stick up for your family.
What's the benefit to your clients protecting the family name? What's the benefit to your clients today?
We have a reputation of being a quality group of people. And so just like the reputation in my family, I need to make sure that we maintain our reputation in work and in my family.
Would your grandfather be proud of the reputation that you've developed at Clairmont Paciello?
I believe he would be.
And how's mom shooting hoops show up every day for you?
Just being out there and joining the team, not being someone higher. We're all at the same level. She was just one of us at that time. She wasn't her mom. She was just one of us.
Mm-hmm. What's the website address for this organization known as Clairmont Paciello?
It's www.cpcfinancial.com.
cpcfinancial.com. We've been speaking with Rich Capasso, president of Clairmont Paciello, here on Executive Leaders Radio. Don't forget to visit our website. It's executiveleadersradio.com to learn more about our executive leaders. That's executiveleadersradio.com to learn more about our executive leaders. Stick around. We'll be back in a moment right after this quick break. Don't go anywhere.
You now can recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Yes, you can recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Simply visit executiveleadersradio.com, securely enter their info, and we'll reach out to spotlight your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Don't wait. This radio and online social media and search engine exposure is quite valuable to your advisors. Yes, this radio and online social media exposure is free and quite valuable to your business advisors who deserve to be recognized. Visit executiveleadersradio.com now to nominate your deserving business advisors.
Back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen. We'd like to introduce John Cooper, co-founder and CEO of Life.io. John, what is Life.io? What are you guys doing?
We're a technology company. We help insurance companies build a better relationship with their customers.
And give me an idea of how large or how small this team is.
We're about 25 people.
And how'd you get a job with this company?
Didn't get a job there. I started it. About 10 years ago.
Started it. All right. Where are you from originally, and how many brothers and sisters? Where are you in the pecking order?
I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, as an only child.
So what makes an only child special?
You have to entertain yourself.
Mm-hmm. Like, give me an example. So you have to have a good imagination. Give me an idea of how young were you when you were imagining?
From the get-go, that's all I would do. I spent a lot of time in my room, but one of the early things I did that was a lot of fun. It started my first business. I called it the Junior Detective Agency. It was just me, solo founder, and I would walk around the neighborhood about 6 years old trying to solve crimes.
Oh, whose business cards did you use?
I took my dad's business cards and, crossed out his first name. We shared the same last name, replaced it with mine, and would hand them out to the neighborhood.
So that was your idea, to cross out your dad's name and put your name in. You could use the same business card because you had the same last name, and walk around the neighborhood. So you had a creative idea, and you began your marketing career at the same time at the age of 6.
Yeah, we even had a logo.
Okay, Drew, could you give me a hand, please?
Hey, John, I'm curious, what did mom and dad think of the junior detective agency?
They were both amused and supportive. I got my dad's briefcase. They took me on a trip to Boston where I could learn about the history of detectives.
And what did that mean to you to have your parents really sort of, help spawn your creativity like that?
They've been very supportive along the way. I still talk to my parents, almost on a daily basis and bounce ideas off of them. And they're always very supportive. And I bring that to my children too.
What part of Life IO reflects mom and dad?
Really everything. We started in the area where the reactions we would get from people when we first started talking about is, you're crazy, is what people would say. We're never going to do that. That's the job of the broker, the administrator. And we were early, but the market has really shifted, and it is dead on with what we do.
And was mom and dad cheering you on right from the beginning, even when it was an uphill battle?
They're amongst our first investors.
Yeah, wow.
All right, Pat.
John, you told an interesting story about your mom's childhood in the green room. Can you tell us how she grew up?
Yeah, so my mom grew up in Paris, and what I just learned recently was while she grew up there, she was born in Tunisia. And during the Tunisian Revolution, her parents were in France looking for a place to live because the climate was sort of heating up in Tunisia. And my mom had to hide in the attic of her house with my grandmother. And then in the darkness of night, they escaped from Tunisia to France to meet up with my parents.
So that was a pretty humble beginning for your mom. And then coming here to America, you said that she started a school when you were younger. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, both my parents have an entrepreneurial streak. So, my mom's a doctor, my dad's a lawyer, but my mom has written books, and she started the school I actually went to. And really where that came from was, here we are in Atlanta in the 80s, deep southern city, and a small group of European families felt like there wasn't the right education for their kids. The public schools weren't good inside the city. The private schools were very traditional southern schools. So she and a group of friends got together in the back of a trailer at a church, and they started the Atlanta International School. And I was one of the first 5 students there.
I mean, so that kind of idea, it's something that was, didn't exist back then. So your mom must have been, a dreamer in a sense. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and to this day, she's written children's books and, really bootstrapped her way through her career. It's been an inspiration.
And is that a quality you think you got from your mom?
Yeah, absolutely.
And how does that show up in your business today?
It's what we do. It's both a blessing and a curse. We've been way ahead of the market, but in many ways, we've helped create the market at the same time. And the whole insurance industry has really changed in this direction of customer centricity and technology, in part because of this idea that, hey, insurance companies should have a different type of relationship with their consumers than they do today.
Mm-hmm. Shannon?
John, in the green room, you mentioned that baseball is one of your favorite sports, and you said you played different roles depending on the season. What did you mean by that?
Well, when I started, I was not the best player on the team. It was quite intimidating. We went from coach pitch to kid pitch. And I went 3 seasons where I didn't hit a ball. And to my parents' credit, they encouraged me to stick with it. And, in baseball, when you're up to bat, you're in the spotlight. Everyone's watching you, the other team, your team, the fans. And that was humbling. By the end of it, in high school, I was captain of the baseball team. But that idea of just sticking with it and never getting up, I think, stuck with me.
How were you able to keep going? What pushed you to keep going when you went 3 seasons without a hit?
A combination. There was, both internal, this drive, because I didn't want to end on a low note. And then also, parents who were supportive went a long way.
Mm. How does that relate to the way you're building your team at Life.io?
We've got an incredible team and we're in a great spot, but we had some rough years. We started too early. We had some years where we lost a major client and the business was on life support. And we kept with it. And, the other people on my team shared that same sort of stick to it mentality. And now the business is thriving off the one.
So this ability of yours to persevere, where'd that come from?
I see it in both my parents. My mom, I mentioned, was a doctor, but she actually in her 40s had to retake her medical exam boards. And basically it's like going back to medical school as a 40-year-old. But I see it with them. I saw it with my dad, who every time he would prepare a case, it's like starting a business, investing his own capital and building a case that at the end of the day comes down to 8 jurors, whether that's a profitable venture or not.
Mm-hmm. Drew, what else you thinking?
I was just curious, when your mom started this school, what was the culture she was hoping to develop that was different than what was out?
When she started the school, it was all about a worldly view. Here we are in Atlanta. Atlanta is a big city now, but it wasn't a big city in 1983. And she had grown up in Paris, which really was a cosmopolitan city. And this idea of learning about other cultures, learning other languages was very central to it. And I look at how that affects us. Small business, our very first client happened to be in the United Arab Emirates. And that would have never been where I, would have logically guessed we'd go. But it actually gave us a leg up to go into a foreign market where the competition wasn't as established and allowed us to grab a huge insurance company outside the U.S.
Yeah, you answered the exact next question I was going to ask. I'm just curious, when you're faced with a tough decision at the office, what do you hear your mom whispering in your ear?
She has two things. One ear, she's, stick to it. And the other ear is, there's a fairness side to her, justice and fairness. And my dad too, he's a lawyer, so he's always looking out for people. But, getting sort of steamrolled is something that a lot of small business that can happen to them. And I've always got my mom and dad whispering like, hey, don't let them take advantage of you because you guys are a small business when you're dealing with a big multinational insurance company.
What's the best part of your job?
2 things I love. One is building a great team, and we have an exceptional team. Everyone we meet is just blown away by that. And then 2 is thinking about what's next. I'm always excited about where the industry is headed and how you can help shape that.
Mm-hmm. You have close relationships with these teammates?
I do. So I started it with a co-founder who, I don't have a sibling. He's probably the closest thing to a sibling.
Thank you. That's where I was going to go. Do they feel like brothers and sisters?
He was my roommate in college. So we've been at this, as close friends and working together for 20 some odd years now. And then within the team, there's definitely a deep connection. Because of the ups and downs, we've had to, we're not a family. We're a group of people working really closely together who have a lot of mutual respect. But we fall short of saying we're a family. We're a community.
Mm-hmm. So there are deep relationships there, and you like long-term relationships. Evidently, if you started a business with your college roommate, it sounds to me like it's all about, what's next innovation as well as the people. That's who you are. Am I right about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And consensus building. I like to try to find consensus amongst teams.
You like to find consensus. That's building the team, isn't it?
You're right. Yep.
Mm-hmm. What's the website address for this organization known as Life.io?
You just said it. We're Life.io.
Oh, all right. We're going to speak with John Cooper, co-founder and CEO of Life.io. Drew, could you give us a rundown on who else we've had on the air today,
Well, great show with really inspiring guests today. We led off with Kathy Brunner, the president and CEO of Acumen Analytics, Linda Conlin, the president at the World Trade Center of Greater Philadelphia, Richard Capasso, the president at Clairmont, Paciello, and then finally just John Cooper, co-founder and CEO at Life.io.
Drew, you did a very good job doing the read down. Your enunciation is wonderful. You're able to read. Your mother should be very proud. Thank you. I'd like to thank my co-hosts, including Shannon Lane, Newmark Knight Frank, Drew Hanlon, and Pat Riley, USI, for giving me hand structure in the questions. Hope you're providing our listening audience an educational and entertaining show. Don't forget to visit our website. It's executiveleadersradio.com. It's executiveleadersradio.com. Learn more about our executive leaders. Thank you for joining us today, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.